Hello, everyone. I'm Sean.
This is who?
And we are the Courageour Frights. So, in 2025, we're in a new year. So, we are going to go back and check out all the movies we saw in 2024 and give our list of our top 10 films.
Yes.
For the year. And I started off my list actually with a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make my top 10 list, but I wanted to point them out anyway because I enjoyed them to varying degrees.
I did not have an honorable mention list.
You don't enjoy any films.
It's either 1 or 10, 1 to 10 or nothing else.
Everything or nothing.
Yeah, everything's trash.
Endless trash!
Okay, so the first honorable mention I wanted to make is Godzilla Kong the New Empire, which I have a shirt for.
There we go.
Wow. This movie ordinarily would have been somewhere in my top 10 because I'm like a huge Godzilla fan, but This movie just didn't do it for me. I did see it 3 times or something in the theaters, but I don't know. Like it was fun, but that was about it.
Yeah. It should have been in my top 10 because that one monkey guy has my same hairline.
That's true.
Yeah, exact same hairline, so should have been in my top 10.
Go back and watch our trailer.
My representation
breakdown
of balding people, I guess.
Scar King or whatever.
Yeah, Scar King.
It's like, that monkey has my hairline.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's getting that way with me, too. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of monkey, my next film on the list was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
What a wonderful day!
That's probably higher on a lot of people's lists.
Yeah, that was actually pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, it was really good, but it just didn't click with me for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
There's no real reason why it doesn't. It's just, it is what it is, I guess. These are our personal lists, not what we're saying is the best film or whatever.
What I'm saying, this is the only list.
This is the only list that matters.
Yeah, the only list that matters.
Everyone else's list is trash.
Yeah.
So, next on my list of honorable mentions is Beetlejuice.
I didn't get a chance to see that one, so.
So, I actually like this one quite a bit. I weirdly never watched Beetlejuice until this year. Mm-hmm. And then I saw this movie when I was living in Poland, which is the biggest waste of 4 months I ever did in my life.
And I want you to know.
But while I was there, I did watch a bunch of movies in their theater in Krakow. And Beetlejuice was one of them. I got to see the original Beetlejuice right before it. I don't know if they did that everywhere else, but in my theater, they showed the original movie and then they immediately followed it up with the new one. So I got to see them both fresh for the first time, back to back. So I didn't have like nostalgia bias or any of that kind of stuff going into it. And I actually really enjoyed the second one as well as the first one. So I think I liked the first one a little bit more, but the second one I felt was a good follow-up to it.
Beetlejuice has got to be the only movie that promotes child brides, I guess you can say.
Well, it's probably not the only movie.
Or
but it's
one of the ones that were pretty well received, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Most of the time it doesn't happen that way.
Some reason people to this day say it's a fantastic film and just overlook the fact that that's happening.
Yeah, that's from the first movie.
It's also somehow a PG-rated film that has the phrase,
Nice fucking model!
Yes. You get one, I guess.
even though that's normally for PG-13.
Yes.
In this case, you get it for PG. For Michael Keaton, we'll let it go.
Michael Keaton looks like some sort of ghoul.
Yeah, well, he is in that movie.
Yes.
But or did you just mean in real life, Michael Keaton looks like
Maybe.
a ghoul?
Maybe that's what, yeah.
Fellow Pittsburgher,
Yes.
Michael Keaton. So yeah, that I like both a lot, but I felt Beetlejuice was pretty decent. I just felt like a lot of people have said there's way too many plot lines going on at once, and that's its biggest downside. It has like 3 different storylines, and it doesn't know which one to focus on. And if it had streamlined that a bit, maybe it would have been a better film, but it is what it is.
Yeah, because like the first movie is definitely more simplistic in the way storytelling is.
Yeah, the first movie just has one story.
Yeah, you don't need like multiple storylines going on.
No, Beetlejuice has like 3 different main storylines, and it's really convoluted. So then my next honorable mention is Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which This is no means as good as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy or anything like that, but I felt it was a pretty decent fantasy telling of like a Norse saga.
Yeah.
That's really what it felt like. So if you're a fan of Viking type stuff, or I mean, it's Anglo-Saxon, sort of similar to a Viking story, it really feels like a story from one of those kind of like 11th century texts brought to life. Mm-hmm. And that's more or less what it is. Like, there's barely any orcs in it. There's like one snow troll or something, which is kind of cool. But it's all about like just this feud between one family and another family fighting over.
Wait, what era was that supposed to?
It's before it's even before The Hobbit.
It's before The Hobbit. Okay.
So I think it's like a couple hundred years before Lord of the Rings or something like that. And it's basically telling the story of like what becomes Rohan or something.
Oh, okay, the Rohan thing. Okay.
So it's, like I said, it's pretty much a saga, but it's about like a feud within a family. It's very small stakes compared to usual stuff.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But not everything needs to be this epic, sweeping battle for the fate of the planet type thing.
Everything needs to be where the universe is going to collapse on itself unless you win.
Yes.
It's not good.
Exactly. But having these small stories like that kind of makes the world feel more lived in. So, and it showed that men just had fights with other men. You didn't necessarily have to have orcs and monsters. So that was pretty cool. And the next one I had here was Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I felt that it was really fun. Like, I liked that movie quite a bit, more than the first two. It's just, like I said in my review, Jim Carrey was a little overbearing because there's too much of him.
Yeah.
Double Jim Carrey. But Shadow kind of balanced it out because it made it a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
Even though the stakes are now planetary destruction, which I just got done talking about.
Yeah.
But, I thought that was a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was definitely, out of all the Sonic movies, actually a lot of video game movies, that is one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm. And I know people that are actually fans of Sonic, especially Sonic, is that Adventure 2 or something like that? That's what most of it's from. So if you're a fan of those Dreamcast Sonic games, you got a lot of that in that film.
It's a lot more characterization than Sonic 3 movie than the previous ones.
Yeah, they almost completely eliminated the human element of it and really focused on the actual characters from the games.
Yeah.
So they're getting farther and farther from their movie world that's set in the real world.
Yeah, because Mike Matei was like barely in it.
Mike Matei, yeah.
He was doing streaming at the time.
Donut Lord.
Yeah.
Go check our video or review out for that.
Yeah.
We have like an in-joke that Donut Lord is based on Mike Matei. So anyway, that is my honorable mention list for 2024. So since you are just all or nothing, we're going to go into the top 10 list.
Okay.
So you can start it off for what is your top 10?
Yeah, my number 10. Abigail, which I actually don't even know what the reviews actually were when this movie came out.
I don't think it was too bad.
Yeah, it's a very gory movie. It's very violent.
Yeah,
but it basically shows like a group of mercenaries or something like that. I don't know if they're considered mercenaries. They were hired to like steal some daughter from like some like rich family.
Yeah, they were kind of, I don't know, I guess mercenaries, or like burglars or something that they got hired.
Yeah, and they were supposed to be they basically brought the daughter to a house and they're supposed to keep them there for like a day till Juan Carlo Esposito would basically come pick her up and they get paid for it. And that was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the house like locks down during this time, and then basically, hijinks ensue, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And basically, they die slowly until you get to the final girl or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it because of how, like, it's kind of campy, but it also shows some, like, heartfelt moments in it between the characters, even though some of them you have, like, Elon Musk character, which is, or, he's not Elon, he looks like Elon Musk.
There's a guy in there that looks like Elon Musk.
Yeah, they're, like, all pretty, it works pretty well with the way that the team is set up and everything else.
Yeah,
like so we did reviews of all these movies, so I didn't want to go too much into
right. Yeah, we're not going to go full in depth on these because most of these films we've covered.
Yeah,
some of them we haven't, but I can briefly go through it. But yeah, Abigail I thought was pretty decent.
Yeah,
I mean it didn't quite make my top 10, but it still was a well-made film.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of movies on here you didn't see, so that's probably
Yeah.
part of it. And
And I know this one, it's supposed to be loosely based off of Dracula's daughter. Or whatever,
very loosely.
Which is not really. Because this is actually about Abigail, which is like a little girl, which I don't think
Yeah.
Dracula's daughter was a little
I
girl.
don't think so.
In the
I think
1936
she's-
film.
Yeah, I think she was a full-grown woman.
Yeah.
in that, and I don't think it really follows the plot at all of that film. It
Yeah.
almost felt more like House on Haunted Hill or something like
Yeah.
that, where it's like a bunch of people have to stay in a
Like,
haunted
kinda like
house
haunted
for a
house, and
day
they
or
kinda
something.
Get killed off.
Except for
pretty
in this
much.
case, it's a vampire ballerina.
Yeah. Which I remember the trailer and stuff had her like dancing and it had like a very ballerina look, which she is like a ballerina. Like she does like I don't know, ballerina stuff.
Ballet.
Ballet, yeah. Ballet, ballerina stuff. Ballet.
Ballerina stuff, yeah.
I don't know what it's called. Ballet.
Which does ballet.
Yeah, ballet. And then she kind of uses her little techniques and stuff to kill people. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
So my number 10 is Alien Romulus. And I rated this one at 10 because I enjoyed the film quite a bit. I think it's probably the best Alien film since Aliens, in my opinion. However, it does get dragged down significantly by the fan service and kind of shoehorning in a bunch of references to previous Alien films.
Yeah. There's
Now-
actual full scenes where it's like shot for shot remake.
Dialogue lifted from previous
Yeah.
movies. The weird inclusion of Ian Holm for some reason.
Yeah.
That was so bad they actually went back and attempted to fix it in the home release.
Yes.
It still doesn't look good. So that's why it's my number 10. But I do rate it very highly on the Alien scale. Since I've seen this movie, actually, I've gone back and rewatched all the Alien movies, and a lot of them weren't as bad as I remembered, but I still would rate Alien Romulus in the top 3, probably.
Yeah, Alien Romulus for me is actually top 4. It's the 4th movie in my list.
Fourth
so-
maybe on your list. So
Yeah.
anything you want to add to it since it's way higher on your list?
Yeah, I mean, I like it because it's a throwback to the original. It's very like it has a very similar moments to the original movie.
Mhm.
They use practical effects. They're not using CGI and all that other stuff. And again, like characters, I do like when characters are good, and this movie had a pretty decent cast of characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree the fan service was a little bit over the top at times. Because there was like the one scene, what was the one scene that she says? It's like you, it's like, was it, did you say you bitch at one point? And it's like
Yes.
she jumps down and just like, she shoots him or whatever.
Yeah.
There's unnecessary to put that line in there.
Yeah, I remember. I saw it in theaters in another movie I saw in Poland.
Yeah.
Whole half this list I saw in Poland. But there's a part where Andy jumps down, almost like surfs the xenomorph down the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
And he says, "Get away from her."
Yeah, there you go. Get away from her, you bitch.
And in my mind, I was thinking, "You bitch." Everybody was thinking that in their head, and then
Yeah.
he says it, and like, you didn't need to say that.
Yeah, I know. Because it was like really weird. Because it was like a couple minutes. It was
There's
like, not
a
even,
weird
like, right away.
pause, and then he's like, "You bitch," after he says it.
It's like, oh, we're just gonna throw that in there.
It's
for
like,
no
oh,
reason.
we're gonna say all the things in this movie. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was what dragged it down a few notches.
Yeah, and the one character, I think Rain was her name.
Yeah,
There's a scene where she like basically has the gun. It's like the scene with Ripley like holding the gun. It's like the exact same scene,
mm-hmm.
and it's like, yeah, I don't kind of like that. It's like,
They
it doesn't
keep
make any
doing
sense.
that. They did that with Alien Covenant too. They cast somebody who looked a bit like Ellen Ripley.
Yeah,
In Covenant, it was actually, I think Sam Waterston's daughter or something like that was the main character in that. The dude that's like in Law and Order or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter was like the lead in Covenant, and she looked kind of like, they made her look like Ellen Ripley. So there's scenes where they keep trying to replicate the stuff that's in the first two films.
yeah,
And it's like, you need to do something new.
yeah,
Now, Fede Alvarez has since announced he's doing a sequel to Alien Romulus. So
Yeah.
if that's all original material, then cool.
yeah.
I mean, we did our fan servicey thing. It was a great way to get the series back on track.
Yeah, especially after many years of being kind of
Yeah.
kind of bad, especially the Prometheus year.
I
Was
still
the
don't
last
like
ones.
I still don't like Covenant.
Yeah, Covenant and Prometheus. Those movies were the ones before this one.
Yeah. I feel like Prometheus would have been fine if it was on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like Covenant. That's my least favorite of all the Alien films.
Which this movie does kind of like bridge that a little bit, because I think the one at the very end, there's like a monster
Yeah.
that kind of looks like one of the what are they called?
Engineers.
Yeah, engineers. So I don't know if it's supposed to, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like that, but
Well, yeah, because they kind of use the black goo
yeah.
in that from Prometheus. And that I didn't mind so much because I saw it almost as a callback to the newborn from
Yeah.
Alien Resurrection as well. So it was kind of like a mix of two different
Yeah.
things. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Alien Romulus.
Yeah. And hopefully they keep, the one thing I do kind of hope they do keep in the second movie, which I probably will because it's Fede Alvarez, is
Yeah.
that weird retro futurism that they use. That's just really good.
It seems like everybody wants to do that because the guy that's working on the series is also doing that.
Keeping that like look to it.
Yeah, because they made a point of mentioning they like that
Yeah.
style to it, as opposed to trying to make everything all shiny and
Yeah, because that's one thing about Alien. Alien always has that. At least a lot of the first one is.
well until Prometheus and
Yeah.
Covenant.
Prometheus Covenant just looks a little too sterile for a movie, but
Everything looks like an Apple store. or
yeah,
something.
yeah, I know. So even with Romulus, they like one of the first scenes at the mining town. It's like just looks nasty and grimy.
Well,
which
everybody's
kinda makes
dying
sense. Yeah,
in the
everyone's
mining
like,
facility.
everyone's just dying. Everyone has the black lung or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they make a point, and that's the reason why they're trying to study the xenomorphs and
Yeah.
stuff, is to create a more resilient human.
Yeah, so they can be working mines and stuff. So
Right.
it has that type of element to it and everything else. So
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, it's one of the better ones
Yeah.
in the franchise. But the fact that that's number 10 is a testament to the type of horror we got this year.
yeah,
My list is almost all horror movies.
yeah,
And we had some great horror movies this year.
yeah. It's
So-
a pretty decent year last year.
Yeah, so what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Furiosa, a Mad Max Tale, which is the sequel to Mad. Or I don't know. Is it a
Prequel.
sequel? Is it a prequel?
Prequel
Yeah, it's a
to
prequel to
Fury
Mad
Road.
Max Fury Road, but a sequel to. I guess it's a prequel for everything, actually.
Well,
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't know. It's
I don't
kinda
even-
weird.
I don't even know if the other 3 movies are connected to Fury Road.
Yeah,
anymore.
because he says that they were, and then there's another interview they said he wasn't, and it's like all.
I don't think Miller even at this point knows what's going on in his
Yeah.
timeline.
Which a theme in this movie specifically, they talk about being like an epic, so you don't actually know if it's actually real or not, or just like
True.
someone made a story up. Because the very last scene is like Chris Hemsworth is a bad guy or whatever. He's
Yeah.
like part of this tree or whatever that gives life to this area. And you don't even know if that's actually true or if someone just made it up as like just to make it more epic, just to make like like the hype the person up a little bit more, like
Yeah.
a tall tale type of thing.
Well, everything's like they're oral tales, and everybody
Yeah.
adds their own little spin to it.
Yeah, which that's actually the one reason why I like this movie is because it feels like almost like a modern day epic type of thing, which is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
So, but it follows like the Mad Max type of formula where like they have like race like a wasteland, there's cars, and all that type of stuff, like a lot of action and stuff like
Right.
that. So, and actually Anya Taylor-Joy I thought did a pretty decent job as Furiosa as well.
Yeah, I liked her in this
Yeah.
as well. I mean, I just didn't rate it as highly because I'm not as big of a fan of, like... I know a lot of people like George Miller's new tellings.
Yeah,
There's quite a few people that think Fury Road's, like, the greatest in the franchise.
there's a lot of people like that.
And I'm like the opposite because I grew up with the old Mad Max.
Yeah.
And I prefer, like, Road Warrior is still my favorite movie in that franchise. And I understand why they don't have Mel Gibson in these anymore because he's become professional crazy man to
Yeah.
a certain extent. But to me, that's still Max.
Yeah,
I didn't really they never sold me on Tom Hardy as Mad Max. Now, the point you made about it being like an epic
yeah,
where they have all these different stories where we don't know if it's true, there's different points of view, that sort of thing. That's kind of how I view his Mad Max in Fury Road. Is it the same Max that's in the
Yeah.
first 3, or is it a totally different guy?
yeah. Because you could have someone talking that this Mad Max is gigantic.
Yeah.
Muscle-bound man. Another guy would be like, this is just like a normal guy.
Right. So we don't even know if that's really the same person
Yeah.
as much as it is he just took on the name
Yeah,
or
the
something.
name. So you have like the main events that happen, but you don't really know if that's the same Max because people elaborate a little bit here and there.
Yeah. That's true. That's how I kind of take that. And if
Yeah.
you look at him as being a different person
Yeah.
and not the same man as, Mel Gibson Max, it's also debatable if Mel Gibson plays the same guy in every movie
Yeah,
or
that's
if it's
true.
like a traveling
Yeah.
guy that goes from town to town helping people.
Like the
and,
drifter or whatever.
yeah. He's kind of like a mythical character anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in that.
Yeah, I'm
franchise.
hoping they make another one of these, but I know Furiosa didn't do well in the box office, but I guess streaming it did really well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they will do another one, but that's the only bad thing is it didn't do very well in the box. I don't think they barely made their money back. But
Yeah. Which that is a shame. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a movie that kind of needed to be seen in theaters.
yeah, I think it was like one of those IMAX movies as well. So
Yeah. I mean, it's as much as I personally didn't like it as much as other people, I feel that it definitely was a film deserving of a
Yeah.
big screen.
yeah,
So my number 9 is A Quiet Place Day One. So this one kind of goes back to the point you made earlier about movies with great characters.
Yeah.
This is definitely a character-driven film.
oh yeah,
I mean, that's mostly what it is. The focus is on really just two characters the entire movie, and a cat.
yeah,
You have Lupita Nyong'o's character who's basically just dying of cancer the entire film. And she just wants to be left alone. All she wants in this whole damn world is get a slice of pizza.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, she's on a retreat with people from her hospice or whatever. And they get attacked by the alien monsters that show up in the Quiet Place franchise. So if you've seen the first two Quiet Place films, there's these weird monsters. They have some real weird name. They're like the
Yeah.
Death Angels or some crap like that. It's really strange. But they hunt by sound. And these are the same monsters that have been in the previous two Quiet Place. But this is telling the first day of the attack. Which I guess they have already told in Quiet Place Part 2.
yeah.
They did a flashback of day one there. But this was actually in New York City. Whereas Quiet Place Part 2 was just in upstate New York somewhere.
Yeah.
Just rural neighborhood. So this one kind of tells a little bit different setting and follows different characters. So you have her character, and then she meets he's a British exchange student or something who went to school at the university in New York, in one of the New York universities. And he's just scared out of his mind. He's played by the guy that is Eddie in Stranger Things or whatever. And he's really good in this too. And it's really just focuses on these two people just trying to survive in this hellish alien invasion. And it sounds stupid, but like I said, the plot is literally her just trying to get a piece of pizza.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Just trying to get a slice of pizza in an apocalypse.
Yeah.
But the way they sell it with how human the characters are in
Yeah.
this, that it's that really would make sense that all you want to do in this apocalyptic thing is just get a little small sliver of some childhood memory of yours or something
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah, it's just a very heartfelt movie.
I do agree with that.
And so that's why it's my number 9. So, number 8.
Yes. So, my number 8 was Maxine,
All right.
which is a Ty West film?
Yes.
So it's the third movie in the Maxine trilogy or Max. I don't know what it's called.
X trilogy or
Yeah, the
something.
X trilogy. Yeah, the X trilogy. There we go. So yeah, this is we had Pearl, Maxine, and the first one was X.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this movie because I mean this is almost like the ending of this trilogy. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't
unless
think
they
they're
make
going back
another
to
one,
it.
but I don't think they are. Let's say I don't know, man. I think they did read that they were kind of in the they had another script made. Or
They
something.
probably were thinking about doing. I don't know if they would though.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems fairly wrapped up.
Yeah, because the way this ends is because Maxine goes from the story of Maxine from X. She's kind of she goes into a rise of fame, being an adult star, an adult movie star.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pearl's more about the old lady from the first movie.
Right.
And then Maxine's going from being her from the adult movie star, moving from that business to like an actual actress.
Hollywood type thing. Yeah.
And she was going to be playing a movie called like Puritan 2, I believe was the name. It was like a horror movie. So, and basically it's kind of her change from being that adult star into an actual actress, I guess you can say. But she also has her past that's kind of following her a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I guess the ends with like her kind of like actually kind of almost like severing her past, because in the first movie is it the first movie that she talks about that her dad's like a televangelist or something,
yeah,
or one of that type of thing, and then at the end of this movie it kind of wraps that storyline up, because it basically kind of like goes from there type of thing. That's the very end of the movie. But like I said, I don't want to spoil too much because there's a lot in there. But I do like it because Mia Goth always plays Maxine pretty well. Mm. So I like it because Mia Goth plays she's pretty decent in these movies. Like, she's really good.
Yeah, so, I mean, she's been fantastic in all three films. My personal favorite is Pearl.
Yeah, Pearl's definitely my favorite. Out of all three of these, Pearl is definitely the best.
Yeah, I think everybody either likes X or Pearl.
Yeah. Especially the very end is like really good in Pearl. Mm-hmm. Like this one, I think I don't like this as much as the first. I think that X is still better than this one, to be honest.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because X has a specific way of doing things. This one definitely, I don't want to say it's like a lesser quality, but it's definitely a little bit different. Even the setting, the way they make these movies as well, is like the first one has a very like 70s feel or 60s feel to it. The Pearl is like almost like the 30s? I think like 20s.
Yeah, it's like in the 20s.
Yeah, it has like a weird look to it. So like the 20 has like was it like Technovision or whatever? It's like a very colorful almost looks like Wizard of Oz type of thing. This movie feels very like the 80s. Like it has like an 80s feel to it because this is what the setting is, and that's how they do make these movies. But
right, they did a better job with that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the style they were going for with Pearl, but if I recall, I think it's actually supposed to be 1918 because wasn't her husband in World War One?
Yeah, World War One, because he's coming back from the war or whatever.
Yeah, but they did this Wizard of Oz type thing. But in 1918, all films were silent movies, and there was no color.
Which I think they even explain that in there.
Yeah, it's like, why are you doing that? That's one thing, like, not to get off topic too much, but the one pet peeve of mine is that every single time, and Disney does this a lot.
Yeah.
Every single time they try to go old-timey, and I'm using that term because they don't seem to know what it is either.
Yeah.
It's Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Like, there were other movies before Wizard of Oz.
They don't know of any other movies but Wizard of Oz.
That's like the only movie anybody knows that's from pre-1950.
Yeah.
Is Wizard of Oz. And it's like, I liked Wizard of Oz too, but there's other movies that exist.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So, yeah.
But I guess it goes back to characterization, I guess, with Maxine. That's one reason why I like it. Because Mia Goth is a pretty good actress. I think that's really all she's really done since Max, like this trilogy, X trilogy, and that was like it.
Well, she's done other horror movies.
Oh, she's done more
and some
horror
other
movies?
Stuff. Like, she's been in a lot of stuff. But
like this recently, I mean.
Stuff we've seen has literally just been this.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, they nailed the setting, which is a lot easier to do a 1980s setting than a 1918 setting.
And it's very like, it's almost like, it's like the stereotypical 1980s setting too, because it's like, because it deals with a lot of like prostitutes and stuff like that.
It's
so
grungy.
It's
LA.
very grimy. It almost reminds me of like Terminator almost. Mm-hmm. Everyone wears like these weird spikes in their jackets and stuff. It's kind of like like that type of way. But that's how movies were in the 80s.
Right.
They had that like the weird Los Angeles look. It had like the grimy, dirty LA.
Yeah, everything's
New
either
York.
Dirty New York or dirty LA.
Yeah,
that's
that type of
the
look.
only two settings you have.
So, but you get that in this movie like a lot of times. But it works in the way the setting is, and that's how they've always done the movies. So
right. Yeah, I did. I enjoyed the setting quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 8 is Smile 2.
I did not see this one.
So Smile 2, I felt followed up really well on Smile 1. Mm-hmm. So it picks up right where the first one leaves off. So we get a little interlude at the beginning where we get kind of a little bit of the backstory of that cop from Smile 1 who's now has the entity attached to him. And he goes to try to kill like some random thug, like some murderer or something that's like on his list. And he wants to go beat the guy to death or whatever so that it'll like pass it on to that guy or whatever. And he's trying to do that while other people show up at like this crack house or something. So then they witness it happen. So it basically passes on to them instead of, because he's trying to make it just end.
Yeah.
And it passes on and he tries to run away and he gets like hit by a car or something. And then
That's like, is that like the first, is that the opening scene?
yeah.
Okay.
It's actually in the trailer.
Yeah, I
They
thought I saw
spoil
that in the
it.
trailer.
Yeah, they literally spoil the death of the guy from the first movie in the trailer. And then, so one of the guys that witnessed it was like a druggie or something.
Yeah.
And so he ends up inadvertently passing it on to this pop singer who she's trying to get clean, but she still has to meet him for, it's like Vicodin or some shit. Like she has back problems or something because she was in a car accident the year before. And so she's got to meet with him because she's got this real hectic like press schedule and all this crap going on. So she's like, I'm going to meet this guy, get some painkiller for my back or whatever. And he's like tripping balls in there when she gets in there. And he ends up beating himself to death with like the weight or something.
Oh, that's
from
in the trailer
That's
too.
also in the trailer, yeah. And right in front of her, and then it passes on to her.
Yeah.
And the actress in Smile 2 does a phenomenal job. I mean, she's playing somebody that's like paranoid
Yeah.
so well. Naomi Scott plays the pop star, who's kind of like a Lady Gaga type.
Yeah, she almost has
Character.
that look to her.
But yeah, she nails it. Her people around her that are like trying to hype her up or whatever, her like PR team, it's like her manager's her mother. It's one of those type of people. And it's really more like the type of situation, almost like Britney Spears or something like that, where the parents are basically using their kid for fame and money and all that shit. And all of her friends are fake. Like the people around her are a bunch of fakes and stuff. So like she's losing her mind and like they don't care. All they care about is she needs to get out there on the tour and all this kind of crap.
Which I think that's always with like Hollywood and stuff like that. It's always that's like that stereotype in Hollywood specifically.
Yeah. So you get a lot of that in this film where she doesn't really have any real people to turn to. And she has this friend that she hasn't talked to in like a year because they had this big giant falling out. She gets her to help her out or whatever, but then there's a massive twist halfway through the film where it makes you wonder if she was ever there in the first place or if she was actually just a figment of her imagination the whole time. And she's just totally losing her mind. And there's all these crazy scenes of her, like, there's like a meme about her chugging water the whole movie. And that becomes a thing. The water bottle is almost a character in the movie. It's so bizarre. And then the ending, the only downside I have is the ending, because the ending is exactly what you think it's going to be. And, like, we predicted the end, even though you haven't seen it, and I guess I'm spoiling the whole movie for you right now. But
I kind of figured.
Kind of sucks because it's so predictable, but then at the other point is how else was it going to end? Like, that's really the only way that the story was going to end.
Especially when you have a singer. Like, a singer with none of the characters. I'm assuming none of the characters from the first movie are, like, connected with her, and they don't know anything about what's going on.
Right. Yeah, because they did the first movie, they did all this research on it.
Yeah.
And then they try to research it again the second time, but it's, like, even more unhinged. Like, she goes to meet some guy, and the dude's like, oh, I got a solution. I just have to kill you. But just for a little bit. And then I'm going to bring you back. And he's like, yeah, sure, guy I've never met before.
Yeah, let me kill you.
Yeah, I'm going to let you take me to this abandoned warehouse and murder me. Okay. But, yeah, it's some crazy shit. And like I said, this has been the year for, I guess every year has great horror performances.
Yeah.
But I think this year they kind of shone the spotlight on it. And we're going to get that even more with a film, my movie, like 2 movies from here, where actually it was a Golden Globe winner.
Yes.
So the industry's finally kind of realizing that horror can put out some great performances.
Yes.
And, like, no joke, this is potentially an Oscar performance from Naomi Scott. So this was really great film. And the fact it's so low on my list is kind of a testament to what else came out this year.
Yes. The First Omen.
Okay, so
Speaking about great performances.
yes, that's actually my number 5.
Yeah, because Margaret, which is Neil Tiger Freeze is that main actress. She plays really well in this movie.
Yes, that film, yeah, she has a really good performance.
Yeah, so this is the prequel. This is another prequel movie, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Of The Omen.
Yeah.
Which is Damien and everything else, which that's a classic, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, that's a classic. So the reason why I like this movie is because, like I said, her performance is really good in this movie. Mm. So she's like a nun, or I guess she's like an orphan that's becoming a nun.
Yeah,
so
she's like a nun in training, or whatever the term for that is.
Yeah, whatever the term is. And she's going to like a, what do they call it, an abbey or something, to like become a nun. Mm-hmm. And basically, it goes from there where stuff happens and you start seeing like Damien. People talk about Damien and stuff like that, which that's stuff from the first movie, which I think in the trailer they play that one. It's like, this is for you, Damien, and like backwards.
Yeah, they had the whole thing in reverse in the trailer, which is a cool callback to that whole satanic panic thing where you had the idea that there was like hidden satanic messages and records if you played them backwards and like that sort of thing.
And this is from like 19, what was it? I don't remember what the year
was. It's like 74
Yeah, 70s
or something like that.
Of Rome, I guess. 1970s, like Italy. So I guess the church or something wanted to do, like, I guess the reason why they have like the church was trying to make it to where people were flocking away from the church's teachings, so they want to like do like they want to like resurrect the Antichrist.
Yeah, the plan.
Like, gee, that sounds like a good plan.
It's a crazy idea, but the plan is essentially there's elements of the church that want to bring about the Antichrist.
Yeah.
In a way, and they somehow think they can control him.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of Revelation.
Yeah.
So it's like they want to do the Book of Revelation just a bit.
Just a little bit.
And then they'll reel it back in when it gets out of hand.
Yeah, it gets out of hand for some reason.
Like, that's going to happen. So the idea is that they'll unleash the Antichrist on humanity, and then the devastation that ensues will cause people to come back to the church.
To the church. And the reason why they have specifically Margaret as being an orphan is because I guess they had like was it like in a manuscript or something? They had to find someone with the 666 thing on them.
Yeah.
Or the one lady had in her mouth. They have like they have a bunch of, it's like almost like there's like a detective part in this movie.
There's quite a bit of that.
Yeah, to where they're trying to find out reason why like some of these girls like missing and stuff like that. And they're finding out that it's like they have like these records in the bottom of like the Abbey or whatever that have that some of these girls have like the 666 thing on them and everything else, and they're trying to find who the right girl to impregnate to make the Antichrist or whatever.
Yeah. And
you find out later on that Margaret actually is that girl that's why she's at the orphanage.
Right. They all have the 666 on them because they're all children of this demon.
Yeah.
And so then they have to, in order to create the Antichrist, they also need a little bit of incest. Too.
Yeah.
So they have to have that demon have a child with his
her,
own
like,
children.
Yeah, with the daughter, I guess you could say.
Right. Which, so you need to have like a bestiality and a
there's actually
angle.
A scene that's like that. Like, there's a scene where she's like, either you don't know, like when you first see it, you don't know if it's like an imagining it or something, but it's like some weird like jackal monster comes out of like whatever place they have them.
Yeah, they just have this weird like Anubis looking thing.
Yeah, that comes in like it's fairly graphic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And they also have they have the body horror in there too, because there's a scene where like there's a lady that's like giving birth or something, because she's like in the abbey, and I guess in Rome at the time, I guess the church had a lot of like medical facilities, probably for like a lot of like poor neighborhood people.
Yeah.
And she's like, imagine this like demon coming out of this lady because she's like pregnant and she's coming out of like, it's just giving birth to like some weird demon monster.
Right. So it does have that element as well.
Yeah. But like I
Yeah.
said, the reason why I like this movie is because of the especially the main actress.
Yeah, she does an amazing
really
performance. And there's one point towards the end of the movie where she's like channeling Isabella Adjani's performance in The Possession, which is a 1982 like a Polish-German movie that had some insane acting that was dealing with people like losing their mind and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what they're doing here. Actually, that movie gets referenced quite a few times this year in performances. And she really did a good job at that. And speaking of that, the setting of this film I thought was really cool. The 1970s setting. There's times in this movie where it appears that they're using like even a 70s filter, or they actually filmed it on film, because it looks like a 1970s movie at points.
Especially when they're outside. Like, they go outside to, like, walking around Rome.
Right.
It has, like, that weird filter into it.
Yeah.
Like the 70s.
And I think it's probably just a filter, because I watched this on streaming since the movie came out, and on streaming it looked like every scene was filmed in the 70s, and I clearly remember in the theater it looked only on the outside scenes.
Because every time you're in the outside of the abbey or whatever, or she's talking to, like, the other nuns and stuff like that, it's definitely, at least to me, it looked a lot clearer. Mm-hmm. I mean, my vision is failing, so it looked a lot clearer, and then you go outside, and it went to that 70s filter or whatever, and it had that weird look to it.
Yeah, which I really like that overall aesthetic. And I've recently really gotten into Italian horror films, like Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci.
Yeah,
and all that
actually,
kind of
that
stuff.
had that phenomena look or whatever.
Yeah, like, that's the point I was going to make, was that it kind of, yes, it's The Omen, but I almost wish it wasn't, because I have, the only things that drag this movie down for me is the continuity errors. Yeah. There's two major errors that cause me problems, because I'm such a big fan of the original Omen that I noticed this stuff right away. One is the jackal's the wrong parent. It was the mother that was a jackal, not the father, in the original Omen. Albeit, it makes more sense that it's the father. Yeah. But that's not what was in the original story. And two, they kind of reworked Father Brennan into being some kind of hero in the first Omen, where he's like this guy who's infiltrated the evil priest organization, and he's out there trying to bring down the cult and all this kind of crap. And that wasn't the case in the original. The original, he was part of that cult, and he was basically trying to make amends before he died, because he found out he had cancer and he was dying, and he's like, well, I need to do something to get back into God's favor after doing all this crap with the Antichrist. Because he had, talking about the 666, like, stigmata thing, he has that on his thigh in the original Omen.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, because they talk about the autopsy, and he has a 666 on his inner thigh or something like that. So it's like he was part of that cult. But in the first Omen, they make him out to just be this hero that was just trying to save everybody from the... It was like, they completely misconstrued that.
Yeah, he's like
character.
outside, like, the actual... He's kind of like outside the... He's like kind of like a rogue inside the church or something.
Yeah.
At least that's what it kind of makes him out. When you first see him, he kind of has that, like, look to him.
Right. Which that actor... We're talking about the Nosferatu review we did. You were saying that the guy that played the one doctor was similar. Yeah. That's him.
Oh, okay.
So Ralph Ineson.
Yeah, that's why I say it looked familiar. I'm like, this guy looks very
That's
familiar.
probably what you remember him from.
And his voice is very, very, like... You can kind of notice by his voice, because he has, like, he has, like, a specific
He's got one of those, like, deep booming voices. They did a slight Irish accent for the first Omen. But, yeah, it's... I love the first Omen for the fact that the setting, that nailing that 1970s aesthetic, the feeling specifically of a European film from the 1970s. It's just the only thing that drags down a bit for me, even though I rated it higher than you did, is just the fact that there's like weird continuity issues with the original film, which I think that's a problem when you're doing a prequel. Yeah.
Especially when you're doing a prequel.
If you're going to do a prequel to a movie, I feel like you need to like absolutely nail the plot. Yeah. and it's just like, nah, they're like, yeah, no, I'm going to change this or that. And it suffers a bit at the end from Avengers syndrome, where it's just setting up a bunch of crap that has to happen in the next Omen movie, and then the very end, the almost post-credit scene, when Father Brennan comes with his initiative to put together a team to to battle Damien.
Yeah.
That
what was it called? Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, yeah, where he shows up at their cabin, which I don't understand how they live in a. Where's the money coming from?
Oh yeah, that is true. At the very end, they were in that cabin, weren't
They're
they?
like living in this nice cabin out in like northern Italy or something. How?
I don't know.
It's like a nun in training, 2 nuns in training,
Yeah.
or a nun in training and like an orphan girl
Yeah.
are living together with the. It's like, what? How are they funding this place? But anyway, Father Brennan shows up and he's just like, they've given the child a name. It's Damien.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, no shit, they would have named the kid. Like, what's your point?
Yeah. I finally found you.
It's like they've given the child a name. It's like, well, yeah, I kind of figured they would.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have no name child.
You got no name devil child.
Yeah, like that whole part's kind of stupid. But aside from that, the very end, it's really good.
Yeah.
So anyway, next, what were we on? That was your 7?
7, yeah.
Okay, so my number 7 is Terrifier 3.
Okay, that's one I haven't seen either.
I don't think you've seen any of the
No, I've
Terrifier
never
films.
seen any of the Terrifier movies.
So Terrifier 3, I think, was a massive step up from the previous 2 movies. The Terrifier 1 is basically just a gore fest, and they're pretty much just establishing Art the Clown as like a slasher icon. It's like they really tried really hard to get a new Freddy or Jason or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole point of Terrifier. And then the guy that created Terrifier, Damien Leone, it's Damien.
There you go.
His name is Damien.
Another one.
His biggest regret with the first film was that he didn't create like a compelling final girl. Because Terrifier 1, I guess the big plot twist is the final girl isn't the final girl because there isn't one. Art wins at the end. And so he's kind of left with this problem where in modern films you can't really do that or else you get labeled like a misogynist or that sort of thing. So in the second film he introduced an actual final girl and started giving this like mythos to it. And that's where it started getting really interesting for me, because Terrifier 1's just a bunch of death and brutal kills.
Yeah, that's where it's been known for, all those the gore and
right
kills.
Which, I like that too. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's got some great practical effects and like all that kind of stuff. But starting with the second film, they started enriching the story with some lore and a lot of mysteries. And then Terrifier 3, they really expanded further on that lore and really have fleshed this franchise out to being way more than what it started out as. So now it's at the point now that it really is in contention with Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees or any of that kind of stuff as a true horror icon. So I think if that's what they set out to do in the first place, they've succeeded by now.
Yeah.
And I'm fully on board and invested in this franchise going forward. I know there's at least one more, probably 2 more coming out.
Yeah, because they said that they're at least doing the second one's already been, or fourth one's already been greenlit. I know that.
Yeah. This did fantastic in the box office, especially for a film that's not even R. It was like not rated.
Not rated.
It's essentially like NC-17 or something. They just haven't rated it because the gore is outrageous in these films. I don't know if it's topped the second one. The second one has a kill scene that goes on for like 5 minutes. It's just brutal.
Oh, jeez.
And this one is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
There's some scenes at the end that even made me kind of squeamish, and I've seen a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So this franchise, if you're somebody who's not really into gore or you can't handle that type of stuff, I would definitely avoid it. I'm not saying that you have to watch Terrifier, but it does have enough going for it that there's, at this point in the franchise, there's more to it than just a bunch of bloody kills.
Yeah.
Like, they do have an interesting lore. There's potential going forward if they include stuff from the short films that Damien created before at the very beginning of the character. Because Art the Clown has actually been around since like 2005 or something.
Yeah, I think I remember him being like didn't they have like a shorts?
They had shorts that led up to it was like the Ninth Circle or
Yeah.
something, and like some other thing. And in those short films, there's all kinds of demons and the hell and all this stuff going on that they could potentially go forward with 4, and they almost certainly are because of what happens in 3. So I think we're going to get a lot more stuff than just a guy in a clown costume cutting people up.
Killing people.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for what happens in Terrifier 4. So that's why it's number 7 on my list. Is just really well made, gory slasher film. Knows exactly what it wants to be.
Yes. Which is always a good thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't know what to want to do, and then it like screws everything up, and it's like really bad.
Right. And they've added a whole bunch of stuff to the story, but they just add it like piecemeal.
Yeah.
They haven't done like 15 different plot points at the same time and gone off in weird tangents. Like, they've just added to it while also retaining a mystery.
Yeah, I think that's probably one reason why it's so good. It's probably because of mystery. You don't have like every piece of information, at least.
No, and you're just following like one character.
Yeah.
Or like a couple characters or something. And then the third one, they actually went back and revisited some of the storylines from the first film that everybody kind of thought were going to be forgotten. So like they tied it all together. So it's one coherent story and not like a bunch of random shit that doesn't link to anything.
I guess it's a good thing. I remember Terrifier 1. I know when it first came out, it wasn't well received as much. I know that they, at least the directors and stuff, they did take some of that information into account when they got like feedback back from the first movie, and that's what they did with the second movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, that's like what I said. With the second film, they started embellishing on other characters besides just art.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens going forward with that franchise.
Okay, my number 6 is a movie I don't even think is even out yet, to be honest. We saw this in Fantasia.
Yeah.
It's called Confessions. So it's a Japanese movie. I was trying to find some information on it, but I don't actually even know who the directors or any of these actors' names, because these are like I said, this is a Japanese movie, so
I don't even know if there's a Wikipedia article for it.
Yeah, there wasn't even a Wikipedia article for it, but essentially it follows like two characters that are they're kind of like stranded in the middle of in a snowstorm in like Aomori or something. I don't know where they're at. But the one character like goes crazy, and pretty much it's like one of those things where it's like The Shining. The one character goes crazy and they start like fighting each other because he's like trying to remember, and he's like, you told me this, and you did that. It's like a drama between two characters more than anything. But it's like it's just does some crazy antics. But there's a whole thing about him like chasing him around, like trying to kill him the whole time.
Right.
It's literally that, but I like it because it's like the human drama between the two characters, and you basically see a little bit of what this character, the reason why he hates him. Because the one character like a Korean guy or something like that. He kind of had a little bit of like almost like a little bit of racism, I guess. Which that is a big thing in Japan, especially if you're Korean. That is like there's a little bit of racism there.
Right.
With the Japanese against the Koreans over there.
Right, but in this case, I guess this probably is a real thing too.
Yeah.
It seemed almost like it was more like perceived racism from the Korean guy.
Yeah, it was more like perceived racism, more than the actual racism.
Yeah.
Which, that happens quite a bit as well, so it's not like... That does happen where it's not really racism, but it's definitely perceived as racist from the actual person. But it also follows the one Korean guy, I guess... I can't remember, was he like... I think he was like in love with one of the characters, the one...
Yeah, there was like a love triangle.
Yeah, there was like a love triangle involved, because the one character is like his friend, the Japanese guy. He's like... She's pregnant or whatever. And then the Korean guy sees her and he like gets mad and basically pretty much like strangles her or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it has that guilt on his mind type of thing. But then this would be a major spoiler. So you find out that she actually didn't die when he choked her.
Oh yeah.
So the other guy actually, so he had his guilt as well. So it's like two people with a bunch of guilt because he thought he killed her like the Korean guy did, and also the Japanese guy thought like know he killed her because he came back and like killed and finished the job.
He strangled her. Everybody just took turns strangling this poor woman.
So it's like it's kind of a zany movie, but it's definitely a human drama between two characters that basically they're both going insane. But at the very end, you find out that the Japanese guy kind of was like. He was kind of imagining that the Korean guy was actually going insane because he actually killed him or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the ending.
Yeah, the ending was he basically killed the Korean guy. He was the only one that was up there. Like he went insane. Like he went insane while in this cabin or whatever.
Yeah,
and killed the Korean guy, but you don't know if it actually this is how it broke down. Maybe they both went insane and just killed each other.
Yeah, it was one of those movies that you can't really tell what the true story was
because the rescue crew come in and is like, oh, I'm here to save you, and then the Japanese guy has the Korean guy's dead. He's just dead in the corner or something. Mm-hmm. And he's blood. He has blood all over him and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a movie about guilt and stuff like that because basically they do have guilt about killing someone.
Yeah.
So, but it's very it is a little zany though, because it is kind of people are he's falling down the roof or whatever, and they're screaming, and it breaks his legs and everything else, and he's he falls down. The other one, I guess he hits him in the legs with the pipe or whatever. Mm. So it has a lot of that type of stuff, but I did enjoy it just because it's just kind of. It's kind of out. It feels kind of like The Shining, where the guy goes insane or whatever.
Yeah, it's got a cabin fever.
Yeah, cabin fever type of feeling to it, but that's the reason why I liked it.
Okay. So, my number 6 is probably number 1 for a lot of horror fans, but this is The Substance. So,
I've heard about this one.
A lot of horror fans have been raving about this movie, and it is quite good. Mm-hmm. So, this stars Demi Moore as it's kind of got some commonality with Smile 2 in some ways, but Demi Moore plays, I can only imagine a fictionalized version of herself pretty much, where it's an aging starlet from the 80s or something, and how she has to deal with, she's constantly fighting for her position to maintain her stardom, and all the producers saying you're too old, you're too ugly, whatever, even though she still looks amazing. But for the producers, you always has to be some 20-year-old young woman type thing.
That's traditional Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah, it's got this sleazy producer. It's played by Dennis Quaid. He's really good in it, too. And they make points of having these real close-up shots of him while he's eating and stuff that's gross. But I think the point of it is that he doesn't give a shit, and he doesn't have to because he's a man. Yeah. That type of thing. He can just do whatever the hell he wants. But Demi Moore has to be perfect in every way or she gets out the door. Yeah. So she comes across this weird experimental drug. And I can't remember what the hell the reason. I think she gets in a car accident or something. And she goes to the doctor. And some guy at the doctor's office basically tells her about this experimental procedure. And it's it'll fix all your problems and make you young again or whatever. And it's let me know if you're interested, that kind of thing. It's a weird black market sort of thing. And she first refuses it. She's like, that's weird, and get away from me, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then she realizes that everything's falling apart. She's losing her show, which is a exercise program type thing. Mm-hmm. So he eventually decides, what the hell, I'll give him a call. And it's just weird, really weird, dark alleys type of shit where you got to go around and you get this thing, go to the locker here, and you have this number, and then you have to call this number, and they send you something in the mail and all this stuff. And it's it's this thing, they just call it the substance, and it's basically this drug that you take. Yeah. And it pretty much creates a new you that's a younger, better version of yourself that you can live in for a short amount of time, and then you have to go back to your old form, but you can go through cycles. So it's 1 week you're the young version of you, and then you'd be 1 week of the old version of you, and you can go back and forth on the cycle. Which sounds great, but this is body horror to the extreme, because when they mean a new you, they mean a literal second person pops out of your body. Your body opens up like a casing, and this other version of you comes out, and it's disgusting. And it turns into this like Cronenberg-esque like horror film.
Yeah, which I know that was where people talked about specifically. Those scenes about
like
that.
It's this movie that's just about like beauty standards in the industry or whatever, and then it's just done in such a grotesque way.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, there's so many great practical effects. The acting, especially from Demi Moore, is fantastic, to the point that the industry, I guess, agreed, because she just won a Golden Globe for this movie. And this is the first time she's ever won, I think, a critical award.
That's pretty good.
Like, however long her career has been, 40-some years or
Especially
something.
Demi Moore, because Demi Moore is like a well-known actress.
Right, but I guess she never won like an Oscar or a Golden Globe or anything her entire career. It's gone on since the 80s. And then she won for this horror movie. And it's really, really well acted. Much like some of the other films on our list, there's literally like two characters. In this case, it's really the same character played by two different people.
Yeah.
Because you just have a younger version of her and then the older version of her. And the older version of her is just like losing her mind. Because the thing is, every time she uses it, as long as she follows the rules, almost like Gremlins, as long as you follow the rules, it works. Of course, she doesn't follow the rules. And she starts setting up stuff with her younger self, where the younger version is now got her own show, and she's doing all this stuff. She's doing the New Year's special, she's doing all this crap that, of course, she has to be present for. And she's on a Hollywood schedule, so you can't say no. So she has to take extra doses and crap to keep in her younger self. But as you're in the younger self, if you're in there longer than you're supposed to be, the older version of you deteriorates.
Oh, gosh.
So every time she goes back into her other body, the Demi Moore body, she's like more and more turning into this like grotesque old like husk of a woman. And it's just disgusting. And it's just so well done. Because then she starts having this strong senses of like resentment to the younger version of her, even though it's the same person. It's like you're doing this to yourself, but it's almost like there's two versions of her. So she's almost creating a split personality on top of everything that's already happening to her. And like we said with the first Omen, using stuff from Possession, this film also kind of feels like Possession. Where you guys have this person who's just going completely insane. And then the final act is totally ludicrous. And you either love the final act or you hate it. People that are really into like monsters and creature effects and stuff tend to like it. And people that wanted a more grounded film hate it, because the rest of the film is... I wouldn't say any of the film is grounded. I mean, be honest, you're popping out of yourself like a cocoon.
Yeah.
And you've got your skin just sitting on the bathroom floor for a week. Like, I don't think it was ever realistic. But the final act, she basically turns into, like, some monster. It looks like it's right out of a trauma film.
Oh, gosh.
She turns into, like, the Toxic Avenger by the end of the movie.
It's like the old lady one?
Yeah. It's like she's just this weird monster with like eyeballs growing out of her shoulder and shit. Looks like something from Resident Evil.
Oh gosh.
So it's wild. Like it needs to be seen to be believed. And so that's my number 6.
As I said, I heard that movie was pretty good.
Yeah. It goes completely... I did not expect that final act to be as crazy as it was.
Yeah.
Like it just went off the rails. But I actually really enjoyed that.
Brave Citizen, which is also another one we watched at Fantasia. I guess it must have came out last year. It must not have been in the U.S. I think I think Fantasia was the first time it came out.
Fantasia, yeah, I think that was the
American market. I think.
Yeah, pretty sure that was the debut outside of Korea.
Yeah, so I guess I can put it on this list because it did come out this year.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I'll allow it. I mean, the last year I put a movie that was like 3 years old on it.
Like 2017 or something.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID.
You're making up for it by now putting films that haven't come out yet.
Yes, I'm going the other way. So,
yeah.
So this is from director Park Jin-pyo. I think that's how you say it. But it's like I think this used to be like a webcomic that they made into a movie. So basically, the synopsis is there's like a I don't know, an intern teacher or something like that comes to this school, and she's like getting like her first job basically, But she used to be a boxer or something like that. Or maybe she was like in a boxing match.
I think she was like an MMA
Yeah,
fighter.
she's like an
or
MMA
something.
fighter or something like that. Then I think she like threw a match or something. Or she threw a match because of like money issues or something like that. So it kind of like tainted her boxing career. So she went into like teaching instead.
Right.
But at the school, it's kind of run by like it's like the stereotypical like I don't know anime trope where you have these like really rich kids or whatever, and they're like the bullies and they go beat everyone up. But in this case, it's the bullies are like beating up teachers and stuff.
Yeah.
And the teachers can't really do anything about it because they're like getting funding from their parents and stuff like that. So, and the reason why I picked this movie for its number 5 is because who doesn't like beating up snot-nosed kids? I don't know what teacher doesn't like beating up snot-nosed kids when they're
It's like
in high school.
everybody's fantasy, whether they admit it or not.
Yeah. Beating up delinquents.
Yeah.
So basically, that's pretty much the gist of the movie. When she wears a mask because she's like, she hides her identity to beat these kids up or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like that's a superhero trope.
Yeah, so she's like, it kind of uses the superhero trope where she comes in and just beats up these kids.
Yeah.
And I think she only beats up this one group of kids because they're the ones that are kind of like the big troublemakers in the school.
Right.
And all the teachers are like, you can't do this, but then they're secretly saying, yeah, this is good. because
Somebody
they're like,
needs to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone needs to do this.
Because doesn't the lead bully in the school's like uncle's a judge or some shit?
Yeah, he's like
So-
a judge or like some sort of like politician or something.
Yeah,
'Cause
so,
his
like,
mother
nobody
came
can-
in and was like, who did this to my son or whatever.
Yeah.
And no one comes forward. It's like, I'm going to pull your funding or something. And then they find out at the end that she kind of did. And it's like, we're doing or I guess she wants to come in to fight him in the mask. But then the bully wants to like beat her up or something. Like just in the front of the whole school to kind of like, yeah, I dominate this person or something.
Yeah.
But then she beats him up basically at the very end. It's kind of like that heartwarming type of thing. So I said,
she beats the guy up. It's heartwarming.
yeah, it's heartwarming that the beating up high school
Beating up minors. Yeah. So to quantify this qualify this information, these are like high school kids.
Yeah.
She's not beating up like primary school students.
No, these are high school kids. So
And it's over the top. It's hyper realized type of thing. It's almost like John Wick high school.
This is like John Wick if in the John Wick universe, basically.
Because it's not like in the real world.
No.
I mean, the final act of the movie is they have like a boxing match for their school's like culture day.
It's like in the cafeteria or something.
Yeah.
And then they allowed it.
Yeah. So like when I was teaching in Japan, we had this thing that was like culture day.
Yeah.
They called it culture day, but it really was just like a festival for the school that was like a talent show and like a whatever they wanted to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens here, but in this one they just have like a full-on boxing ring in the school and they're just like fighting to the death.
Between the teacher and like the kid or whatever.
Yeah. But I don't think at that point they've revealed that the teacher is
I
she's
think
a teacher.
The one bully knew who she was by the end. That's why he was like he wanted her to come out and be like, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But she's like, no. And then she like just turns and is like, no, I'm not going to lose, and beats him up.
Yeah.
But
it is a crazy movie.
yeah, the main actress is actually pretty good in this. I don't even know what the main actress's name is. Oh, Shin Hae Sun.
Okay.
I think that's who that is. She does a really good job in this movie, actually. So
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a
Yeah,
lot. I think actually of all the movies we saw in Fantasia, that was probably
this was one of the better ones.
Yeah, I would say that was the best one.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. It's a very entertaining movie, and it's like, it definitely has like, I guess it does have that superhero trope or the superhero type of thing in it. So
Yeah, it's doing the vigilante.
yeah,
It's like it's like Batman or something. The superheroes that doesn't have superpowers.
yeah. It's like, oh yeah, beating up kids. It's always yes.
Who doesn't want to smack some kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially after my experience in Poland. That was just 4 months of skibbity.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your number 5.
Yes.
My number 5 is The First Omen. So we already talked about that.
We already talked about that. So I guess we can skip
number
over
4.
Alien Romulus. So we already talked about that. So
Okay. So my number 4 is Heretic. So this is I don't know if this is A24 or Neon, whoever
it sounds like an A24.
it's
Neon
elevated horror.
Yeah.
So this is a horror movie about kind of a psychological thriller about these Mormons. So there's these 2 Mormon girls who are going around like door to door trying to get recruits for the church or whatever. Mm-hmm. They go to this house that the person living in the house is Hugh Grant, so that's your first mistake.
Yeah.
And they go in there, they think everything's normal. He basically, this was actually not only was a selling point in the film, it became a in real life thing over at, I guess, Alamo Theaters or something.
Yes.
Where it's in the trailer where they can only come into a house if there's a woman present. And he says, oh yeah, my wife's in the kitchen or whatever. She's baking a pie. So I hope you like blueberry or whatever. So they come in, they don't think anything of it. They sit down. He keeps coming in asking like random questions and stuff. And then he goes back into the kitchen. And they don't think anything of it because it smells like blueberries. But then eventually it gets weirder. Nobody's coming out. They're like, what is going on here? This guy's kind of creepy. And one of the girls looks down and sees that there's blueberry candle scent on the table. And then they start to freak out because then they start to realize that there is no pie. And by there's no pie, there's most likely no wife. And something weird is going on in the house. They try to leave the house. And they can't leave the house. They go and they find and confront him. And they realize that he's back there somewhere. And they go to see him, and they're like, we need to get out of the house. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't let you get out of the house. And they're like, what do you mean you can't let us out of the house? And he's like, I mean, I can't let you out of the house. Once the door locks, it's locked for the night, and I can't open it. Because there's some weird mechanism in the house that causes the door to stay locked. And obviously, everybody's like, what the hell is going on here? He basically has this entire, like, house set up on a weird trapdoor timer thing or something. And the whole house is pretty much these bunch of trapdoors and secret rooms and crap. And the whole idea is he pretty much just trapped these people in his house because he's trying to ask them a bunch of philosophical questions about religion. And he's basically trying to get them to believe that there is no religion or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And everything he has set up, it's almost like Saw for theologians or something. It's like really weird. Philosophical Saw. He doesn't actually go as far as setting up traps like in Saw.
Like killing them or something?
Yeah, well, I mean...
I guess
somebody does die. But it's not straight to that.
Yeah.
It's more like there's all these are your choices. What choice are you going to make? He sets this whole thing up like a mousetrap game. And he's pretty much studying them in the house.
So like
which...
The Riddler or something.
Yeah, like which door do they choose? What answers do they give to which questions?
So it's like almost like a psychoanalyzing them or something.
Right. It's like Psychoanalysis, the horror film.
Yeah.
And it's just really well done. Again, another film that literally has 3 actors in it.
Yeah.
The focus is all on... I mean, this seems to be the key. If you want to make a really good movie, have a cast of like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, not a lot of people.
And Hugh Grant puts in a fantastic performance. He's done a really great, like, last couple of years where he's been doing a lot more, like, darker characters. And it seems to suit him. For whatever reason. I don't know what that says about Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
But he recently was in the film I think you enjoyed a lot, was that Dungeons and Dragons movie from the other year, and he was a villain in that. He plays like a con man really well. He plays kind of this crazy psychoanalysis type guy really well. So I don't know what that says for him, but I do enjoy Hugh Grant's villain era.
Yes.
And I think he did a fantastic job in this, and the actresses that are in the film also do a really good job. And they kind of turn the tables on him at a certain point where they don't become they aren't the victims he thinks they are, and they sort of turn the questions on him and stuff, and it's very thought-provoking.
So it kind of like goes back and forth type of thing.
Yeah, so it's more...
Yeah, that was one I did want to see. I just didn't get a chance to do it. But.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So, I mean, that came out in November, I think. So it's sort of the tail end of the year.
Because there was a couple horror movies that came out in November that I wanted to see, like that one, and there was like one that was like Don't Speak or something.
Oh yeah, Speak No Evil or something
Speak
like
No
that.
Evil or
that one
like
I did want to see too. That's a remake of I think a Danish film or something.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't realize that.
But I heard both versions are pretty decent. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's my number 4.
Okay, so we're going to the top 3 here, which I think we both have the same list, but it's just a different order.
Yeah, it's a different order, yeah.
Which, well, we didn't do this. We did this at separate times, so we didn't see our answers beforehand.
We just now saw our answers.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I guess we have the same list, except for number 2, which is the same thing. Nosferatu, which was pretty much the last movie of the year last year.
Yes.
It's like it came out on December 25th, I believe.
Yep, came out Christmas Day.
It's a Robert Eggers movie. That's like a remake
Roger Ebert movie.
Yeah, Roger Ebert movie. And that was basically a remake of Nosferatu's 1922 film. The reason why I liked it is because it's a kind of a horror period piece almost, where you have like was it a 1980s or 1980s 1800s
1830s.
yeah 1830s Germany, and you have like you have the Nosferatu thing. I really like the setting mostly most of the time, with the setting and also the way the cinematography is.
Yeah,
because it uses a lot of black and white at times when they need to be black and white. Like the way the film is shot is very. I think it's really good. Like, yeah, probably one of the best things I saw this year at least.
right.
Like, but I think that happened and also with they use a lot of shadows and stuff, which I actually think they do that also with Nosferatu, the first movie, 1922 version. I've never seen the 1922 version, but
It's famous for its use of shadows.
yeah, where it, like you'll have like it shows him where he's like basically crawling, like he pulls his hand out over the city basically, which just kind of shows like showing him going like his influence is like extending out throughout the city, but it uses a lot of that.
Yeah.
Plus all the acting, the actors do a pretty decent job. Like Bill Skarsgård plays as Count Orlok. He does a pretty decent job as Count Orlok. The main character, Lily Rose Depp, does a pretty decent job. And also Nicholas Hoult, I believe, is like the one.
Yeah,
he's like
the main character.
The main character. He does a pretty decent job. So it's like
Thomas.
a lot of the characters do pretty decent. Like a lot of the actors do a pretty decent job with their characters, but. I liked it because of the way the setting and also the way the cinematography was made with this movie.
Yeah, I think even the people that complain about this movie have said it's a beautifully shot film. So almost everyone has agreed on that aspect of it. This is kind of a divisive film, more so than I thought it would be. But
yeah, because this one was one that people actually went to go. Like I said, when we go to theaters, a lot of times it's kind of empty. This one actually had a lot of people there, surprisingly.
Yeah, and I saw it. The first time I saw it was actually Christmas Day, and it was packed. I don't think there was any empty seats. And then when we saw it later, there was still quite a few people.
Yeah, there was like probably like. Let's say, like, it's like a little bit more than a quarter full, at least, which that's a lot. That's quite a bit.
For our little town,
yeah. For a lot of time we watch movies, that's actually quite a bit.
Right, and yeah, this movie, I enjoyed this film a lot.
Yeah.
Like you said, the acting is really well done. A lot of people are complaining about the acting, and it's just I don't think they get the style that it is. It's the dialogue is done in like Dickens period English. So imagine like A Christmas Carol or something. That sort of dialogue, or like Jane Eyre or something along those lines, because it's that sort of early Victorian, like post-Regency period sort of thing. So it's got a lot of that type of dialogue going on. It's in period dialogue, which is something that Eggers does, and almost only Eggers does at this point. He did this with The Witch as well, where famously I like to make fun of this random Amazon review that gave The Witch 1 star and just has Pilgrim talk as the review. That's kind of what this is like. So that film, The Witch, which I think is Eggers' first film, was in 17th century period English. This is in 19th century period English. The only way this could have been more realistic is if it had been in 19th century period German.
Yeah.
But I think they probably thought that was even pretentious for Eggers.
Yeah, because I think they did a thing where they basically had a little bit of German and then it switched over to English.
They had other languages.
Yeah.
They had Romani in here. They had Russian on the ship. And the language Orlok speaks is
it's like Latin, but I
ridiculous.
guess it was like they said it was something else.
They said it was okay. So that's where I say there's pretension. As somebody who's into linguistics, Apparently, a claim has been made that the Romanian screenwriter that they hired to do Orlok's language, he claims he's speaking Dacian, which is a completely extinct language, and we have like maybe 20 words in. There's no way they're speaking Dacian. Yeah. So
use ChatGPT to make that.
Yeah, pretty much. And it sounds very Latin.
Yeah, it sounds like Latin.
So my assumption is that they just used the earliest recorded form of Romanian, and that's what Orlok is speaking. And the guy's just saying it's Dacian because it sounded way too Latin. The Dacian people fought the Romans. Like, they wouldn't have spoken their language at that time. They eventually got absorbed by the Romans, and that's why Romania is called that, because it is a Latin-based language. But it was even more Latin-based in early forms of the language. Since then, it's had a lot of Slavic influence and Hungarian and all that sort of thing. So I think it's very interesting how the use of language in the film, the way people speak, is period accurate. The clothing is period accurate. The setting, buildings, everything's period accurate.
Even Orlok.
Even Orlok is...
People make fun of that.
Yeah, again, Orlok is also sort of period accurate. Just depends on what they were going with.
Yeah, which... I think they're going more Vlad was like Dracula.
Yeah, Vlad Tepes, but to the point... It's actually, like, the mustache is from that era, but the way they have him depicted, he actually looks like a 17th century nobleman.
Yeah.
From Transylvania. So, like, they have a Transylvanian Wallachian type look, but if you go back and look at 17th century, I mean, his style we would consider a Cossack now, but that style with, like, the big lock of hair sticking off to the side, otherwise completely bald, the big mustache and all that kind of stuff, that's associated with Cossacks from that period. But in that period, the whole thing was part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And Transylvania was part of that, because the king of Poland was also like the king of Transylvania and king of like 15 other things. Actually, they started out in Transylvania. I'm going to get a weird history lesson here, but I guess it fits with Nosferatu, and I just came back from Poland. So the king in the 16th century, the first king of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, when it was a big, gigantic country, was Stefan Bathory. The Bathory family comes from Transylvania initially. So Elizabeth Bathory was a famous, sort of possible real-life vampire, and that's like where they're getting that from, because she used to bathe in the blood of her like handmaidens or some crap like that to stay youthful. And she was like in the 16th century. So I think they're trying to go down that lineage. And then what Eggers did was he combined the Dracula story, which is what Nosferatu is. Nosferatu is famously a 1922 German unofficial adaptation of Dracula, which is why they changed all the names of the characters and some of the events to try to avoid getting sued. And then they got sued anyway by the Bram Stoker estate, and the movie was court ordered to be destroyed. And ironically, it's one of the best represented films of that era today, which is kind of funny.
Especially the way the older one is like had like some top-notch like special effects for that age.
Yeah, which hilariously, Shadow of Vampire is kind of a dark comedy about the making of Nosferatu. That cast Willem Dafoe as Count Orlok.
Yeah.
/ Max Schreck, the actor who played him in the original. And then this film, he's Von Franz.
Von Franz.
Kind of Van Helsing-esque character. Yeah, so anyway, so going back to the vampire. In this film, he took... Eggers basically took Dracula, the original Nosferatu, and then combined it with real-life folk stories about vampires coming from, like, the Transylvania region, Romani folklore, that sort of thing. And then combined it with an aesthetic he found, probably looking at pictures of noblemen and stuff from different eras. Now, if he is supposed to be speaking Dacian, that basically means he's 2,000 years old, at least. But, so he may not be Vlad. Which works because Nosferatu is a different character than Dracula.
Yeah.
Because it is an unofficial adaptation.
And I think Nosferatu like controlled like rats and stuff. Or
yeah.
At least that's what at least this one he has. Like, I guess that is a thing where he controls rats.
Nosferatu's always been tied to rats and the plague.
Yeah, he like unleashes his plague on the world or whatever.
Right. Which is different from standard Dracula.
Yeah.
Also, Dracula in the book does have a mustache. So, like, the mustache thing, to complain about the mustaches.
Everyone's complaining about that mustache. Like,
They
it
don't-
looks like period piece.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
And like I said, the one thing Eggers does, people say Eggers is pretentious, and I mean, whatever, maybe he is, but in reality, I don't know if he's so much pretentious as he just does his research.
Yeah.
He researches the hell out of the period that he's doing.
I guess researching historical
I guess
stuff
research is pretentious.
is pretentious. I
So
guess.
whatever, I'm also pretentious
Yeah.
then, I guess. But I got what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so that's what really drew me into Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Was that I was like, wow, this guy's got this is like the realest take you're gonna get on a vampire, basically.
Which Robert Eggers, I think all his movies are like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen his middle two films. I've seen The Witch and this.
I've
saw
heard Lighthouse is supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
And that's a black and white film.
Right. So that's something I do find compelling about this particular telling. One thing I find great about Dracula is even it's been done over 170 times. Like, it has to be the most filmed story ever. And each time, well, maybe not each time, but there's enough times where something new has been told in this story. Like, of those movies, there's probably about 8 you could choose from that are like definitive versions that all give you something different.
Yeah.
And that's, even though 8 out of 170 doesn't sound like a lot, but 8 times of telling the same story with completely different aspects of it is kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know any other film, any other story that's that in depth. Has been told from that many different angles. So, yeah, I think this one's like really well made. I thought all the acting was good. I like Willem Dafoe was really cool as kind of a. It's probably my maybe second or third favorite Van Helsing-esque character. I think Anthony Hopkins is hard to top, but his Von Franz is pretty good. Even though Von Franz is a different character. He's actually a character that's not in the original Nosferatu, though. The original Nosferatu has some other guy as the Van Helsing character, and he does jack shit. Like, he literally does fuck all the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, he shows up in one scene where he's talking to his students about a Venus flytrap, and then he never shows up again until the very end of the movie when Ellen tells Thomas to go fetch the professor, I am ill, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that she can open up the window and let Nosferatu in to suck on her neck for 4 hours or whatever. Which people are complaining about the supposed sexuality or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, how else were you keeping him in the room that long?
Yeah, I know.
It seemed a bit weird that he just bit her in the neck for hours in the original movie.
Yeah, this one he's like she's like giving herself to him, which that's like a part of it's a kind of a depressing ending to the movie.
Right, but
pretty much the main characters die, like the main character dies.
True, but that's actually what's always set Nosferatu apart from Dracula. That ending has always been part of the story.
Yeah, and it's like you almost have to do it because she's cursed, so you have to break the curse somehow, and that's the only way to do it.
And that was another thing I thought was interesting. This version really goes hard into the almost like possession aspect, where you're also almost looking at an exorcism film as well as a vampire film.
Yeah.
Which I found very interesting.
Because Orlok can just kind of like take you over and just like screw you up.
Yeah. And it's
At
kind
any
of
time.
It's kind of bleeding the line between a demon and a vampire and all that stuff, which in real world folklore, nothing is clean cut.
Yeah.
Like, when you read Norse mythology, elves and dwarves are kind of blend into one thing. Like, they aren't necessarily clean, separate beings. Mm-hmm. The idea they're separate beings comes from, like, Tolkien and stuff.
Yeah.
That's, like, modern fantasy. And the same is true with, like, vampires. Vampires, werewolves, demons, succubus, all this crap. Depending on which version of which folktale you're looking at, they all kind of blend into a same type of creature.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're all one thing, and sometimes they're all separate things. And this movie kind of made him a succubus or an incubus, a vampire, and a demon all at once, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And other adaptations have made him kind of a werewolf as well. I mean,
which I think there was a point in the movie where he said he was a person that like basically like sold his soul to the devil to stay alive. Type of thing.
He says he's not a person; he's just an appetite.
Yeah, he just kind of is there.
Yeah.
Like, he should have
So-
died a long time ago, but he was kind of, like, greedy or something. He just kept staying alive.
Yeah, he's just alive forever. In some versions of the story, like I think Herzog's version from the 70s, which I personally loathe. I hate that movie. But some people really like it. But that version makes him more of a tragic character who's like trying to die.
Oh, okay.
In this version, he's not so much trying to die. It's
Yeah, he just kind of, like, I guess that is a thing in the film where he's just kind of like an appetite. He just kind of, like, eats. He devours everything he sees, basically.
right. And they're saying that this is like, some people are talking about there's too much sex stuff in this. Other people said it's not sexy at all. And it's like, well, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be.
To me, I love the 1990s Coppola Dracula. That's
Yeah.
probably my favorite Dracula movie as far as regular Dracula goes. That movie dials up the sexiness to the extreme.
Yeah, which that's more of like a modern take of a vampire.
Right. But in my mind, that film aside, I just love everything about that movie. But that film aside, I prefer vampires to be almost like a shark.
Yeah.
Like a predator that's looking for just for blood and
Yeah.
stuff. Like that sort of thing. I don't think vampires should be sexy.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, they're beings that always want to look for blood and just like eat.
Yeah.
And that's the only way they eat is by like eating human blood, I guess.
Right. And there's always been that angle of like
Yeah.
vampires and sex and stuff. And like that's in here, but it's not meant to be sexy.
Yeah.
It's
It's
kind
meant
of
to be almost like animalistic.
Yeah, it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
And that's the point they're going with
Yeah.
in
And
this.
also, there's a couple scenes in here where they talk about modernity or whatever, and also like ancient times stuff.
Oh yeah, Franz says that line to
Yeah.
Ellen.
Because he's like trying to get away from Transylvania or wherever he's at right now, because everyone knows who that is. Like,
Yeah.
the townsfolk tell him don't go there because it's like he's evil or whatever. So he's trying to get out of there to go to a place like the modern world,
Right.
which would be like,
Which is ill-equipped to
Vicksburg or
deal
whatever.
with him.
yeah, which they don't know who that is.
Right. That's why I thought that was clever too.
Yeah,
Because and Dracula, I think, does that too, the Coppola one.
yeah,
Where it's basically like, yeah, don't heed any attention to these superstitious
that's what he
locals
even
or
says,
whatever.
Like, these are all superstitious.
Yeah.
Because like was it the gypsies or whatever?
Yeah, the
killing, like,
Romani.
vampires or something.
Yeah, he's like they're unclean ways or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because they know how to deal with you.
Yeah.
To an extent. They actually don't know how to deal with you because you're still around.
Yeah.
So obviously they're not doing something right.
They're just going around in the cemetery just killing like vampires that way, I guess.
But they are also keeping him kind of secluded in
Yeah,
his
in
little
check.
castle. Whereas in Germany, where the more scientific-minded people are,
Yeah.
they don't know how to deal with him at all. They don't even believe in him.
Yeah.
So he's basically able to run rampant and totally unchecked.
Yeah, because there's like subtle themes about like medicine as well, because almost like mental, like I guess mental health at least a little bit, because she's like going crazy, but the doctor just keeps saying, "Oh, just give her more ether."
Yeah.
Not really solving the problem. It's like
No.
give her more ether until like what's his name, Von Franz Von Franz comes like, "Stop giving her ether. It's not solving the issue." And they even talk about it's like let her body be able to like tell you what the problem is instead of just giving her a bunch of medication. And that's like I'm pretty sure Eggers is going that route where there's like at least a little bit of commentary about modern medicine.
Yeah, there is a commentary about modern medicine, about over-medication and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But at the same time, I thought even that was clever.
Yeah.
Because the average filmmaker that doesn't do their research
Yeah.
would look at 1830s as being like this horrible
Yeah.
dark age of medicine.
Which it is.
Which, yeah, but I mean, it is and it isn't. Like,
Yeah.
It is. Society progresses over time, typically.
Yeah.
Sometimes we regress, but usually we progress. So medicine in the 1830s was probably better than medicine in the 1700s.
Yeah.
But it was worse than medicine in the
Now,
1890s
yeah.
or now or what have you. But there is a cool part in the movie where when they capture the Renfield character, Knock,
Yeah.
they throw him in the basement and in the old dungeon, which was like the old cells from centuries prior. And he he actually flips out on the guy, on the warden or whatever, and is like, "We don't do that anymore. Like this isn't
this is modern life."
Yeah, we are in a modern society or whatever." And I like that addition because it showed that yes, people are more primitive than today, but they have progressed significantly from the past. Like you're in a period of, this is early modern period.
Like this is a modern way of doing things.
We've hit the Industrial Revolution by this point. Like we're at the early stages of what the world is that we see today. So like these type of, that's one thing I always find annoying, is that like people think that people just a few decades ago were primitive comparatively talking about centuries. But if you're looking at the grand scheme of human history, 1830 was pretty advanced.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time...
That's why it's called the Age of Enlightenment.
Yeah. But at the same time, it had a lot of places to progress, and some places it progressed too much, and they had to go backwards to get a better medium. Yeah. Which is the point that von Franz makes, is that, you know, if this was in heathen times or whatever, you would have been a great priestess or something. It's basically implying that she would have been better off in an earlier age.
Yeah, so now, modern age, you're just a crazy person.
Yeah, now we treat you like you're insane, and the fact you're a woman makes it even worse. So, yeah, there was a lot of layered commentary in this film, and a lot of great research done from Eggers. Like, I think Nosferatu's like a masterpiece. One of the best versions of Dracula. Yeah. I think. So, my number 3 is actually, I believe, your number 1.
My number 1.
Is Late Night with the Devil.
Yes.
So, this is a film, I think it was either made by Shudder or distributed by Shudder. I think it's an Australian film, actually.
Yes, I believe it is, actually.
Because in the credits, they give credit to, like, a native Aboriginal people or something. So, it was definitely it's filmed in Australia.
Colin Carnes and Cameron Carnes had directed it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So, this is it stars David Dastmalchian, who is an actor we both like a lot. Yeah. And he's shown up in quite a few things recently. I believe another Pennsylvania native. Yes. He's been doing a lot of horror. He typically is a side character, so seeing him take the lead was really pleasant in this film. Mm-hmm. He can command the hell out of a movie. Like, I think he should do the lead more often. Yeah. The whole movie revolves around him. And so he basically plays a 1970s talk show host. He's like a Johnny Carson, I guess the competition for Johnny Carson.
Yeah, he was like always the second place guy or something.
Yeah, so it's kind of like
the Jay Leno.
Yeah, the Jay Leno effect, where like when we were growing up, it was Jay Leno and David Letterman that were like constantly fighting with each other.
It was always like David Letterman was always like, I think always number 1, but then Jay Leno was always like number 2.
Yeah, something like that. And there was always then Johnny Carson retired and passed the torch, and I think it went to Jay Leno, and it was like a big fight over that. Yeah. There's always weird drama. And then Conan O'Brien got thrown into that mix, and he'd end up getting tossed under the bus.
Because Jay Leno came back, and then he got basically put to another spot when he wasn't supposed to be there, and he's like, this is Tonight Show, it should always be this spot, and it was like a big problem.
So even decades later, in the 2010s, we're still dealing with the same kind of bullshit they were talking about in the 1970s. Yeah. So anyway, this is set in the 70s. It's a kind of found footage sort of film. Yeah. It's not true found footage, but it is kind of in a sense where it's like, this is the final recorded episode of this famous talk show. Yeah. And
about we're Satanism or something.
Yeah, we're going to show what happened. And so he's got these sinking ratings. He's coming back on the air after taking a lot of time off because his wife dying of cancer or something. And so in order to get that big hit they need to keep the show on the air and to give them that boost, hopefully to even outdo Carson, he comes up with this idea to bring on this like demonic possession thing.
Because he reads like a book about like some girl that was because I talk about Satanism and stuff like that. She was like in a satanic cult or whatever. Yeah. And she says she was like there and she's like actually possessed by the one demon. They're like, we need to bring her on air because Halloween episode, so we need something big,
something really big to, like I said, to close that gap with Carson. Yeah, and So he clearly, they never delve too much into it, but there's clearly like a relationship going on offset between him and the psychologist that is working with the girl that they brought out of the cult. So and that gets used against him by the demon and all that kind of stuff later on. But it starts out as just a regular episode of like a Tonight Show type thing. It's like flawlessly done.
Yeah, it's pretty decent how they do that.
I think there was a controversy that there was AI used in some way. I think it was mainly used for the title cards or something.
Yeah, I think when they use the title cards, because there's like, it says like, be right back thing, and it has like the weird pictures and stuff.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what they used the AI for.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
So I'm not a fan of AI, but I think everything else about this film, much like the first Omen, again, really nailed that look, the feel, everything of like a 1970s television
there's
show.
a lot of movies this year that did that. Like last year, I mean, they had a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like setting pieces. Like
right, which I really enjoy because
Yeah.
I'm into, we just talked forever about Nosferatu, so I'm interested in history, but I'm also interested in like recent history about like television shows and stuff of the past, and even I wasn't alive in the 1970s. I did grow up with my parents were, and I did grow up with a lot of stuff from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, all that kind of stuff from eras before I was around. So like I'm used to the way the kind of the grain of the film, like the way things look and everything. So I really enjoyed the way they try to replicate that with both the first Omen and Late Night with the Devil.
yeah.
And I think overall, Das Malchian like knocked it out of the park with the acting on that. I think he did a fantastic job. I guess if I was going to take some points away, it's the very end, I think, goes a little bit too far. And then they spend all this time with these practical effects that get the grain of film to look right and all this shit, and then they kind of blow it with that ending.
Yeah, it has
It's like a terribly done CGI effect.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Of a weird green
monster
thing that like cracks out of her head. It's like really weird.
Yeah,
I think
it's a little bit
kind of falls apart.
It's definitely could tell that some of the effects weren't too well in that one.
Yeah, it turns into a mid-tier segment from VHS.
Yeah,
at the very end.
It does.
Which is that's a shame.
Yeah.
But I think aside from that very ending part, I think it's really well.
Yeah, because speaking about the setting, I guess they have like guests that come on. Like they have like a guy that's like kind of like a skeptic, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which used to be like an original magician, which I believe actually is a real thing. Actually, I think there was a guy that used to do that. Like he was like a skeptic during this time period. So they took a lot of stuff from the same time period. And another guy that's like almost like a seance guy or something. I don't know what his name is. Yeah.
He actually kind of reminded me of this. There's this guy in an X-Files episode.
Yeah.
It's like over the top, and he kind of reminded me of him.
Yeah, which I think that actually happened as well. So these like they actually were able to take parts or stuff out of like the 70s like talk shows and put it in this movie actually.
Right. And Carson did that type of stuff quite a bit. Like I mean, most of the time they brought on celebrities, that sort of thing. But occasionally they would bring in people like that, where it was like they had a magician act.
Yeah.
Or I think there was another guy, Merv Griffin or show or something like that, and he had like Steven Seagal on or something years before he was famous, and it was just this guy coming on doing like martial arts demonstration in the studio. Like they would do other stuff, like it wasn't always like actors.
Yeah.
And I think Johnny Carson's the one that started the stuff with bringing like Jack Hanna on with the animals and all that kind of stuff. Like that was all like
I thought it was like a good show time, which actually I guess that is one thing about with cable not being around anymore. Mm-hmm. That is like that used to be the thing on like was it Saturday nights?
Well, it was like every night.
Or it was Thursday. It was like Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I guess some nights was every night, but like the major ones is like Saturday, Sunday nights, and they would show it like it was like a late night television, I guess, right before like I guess before it used to show those and then kind of like quit. Like,
well, television used to go off the air.
Yeah, it like went off the air. That was like the last thing you saw before it went off the air a lot of times.
I think we might have been around for the very end of that.
Yeah.
Programming just kind of, I think When
With,
we were
like,
kids,
infomercials.
yeah, I feel like when we were kids, almost every station was still on the air.
Yeah.
But they ran infomercials or something. Except for like local stuff. Like I think our PBS or something would go completely off the air at like 1 a.m. or something. But most of the time, you had that sort of thing. But in the 70s and even into the 80s and stuff, there was a cutoff time.
Yeah, there was a time as like it played the national anthem at the very end, and that was it.
Yeah, and you're done for the night.
Yeah, you're done for the night. You go to bed.
There's nothing else to watch. Go to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I feel like this movie really did kind of nail the whole atmosphere.
It had that. This movie definitely does it. It kind of showed a little bit of behind the scenes of that type of stuff because every time they do the commercial break, because they're showing the master tape and stuff like that, so it's like what we wouldn't see. We know it would be a commercial break, but it's like him talking to people in the background. And the one thing it does show is like there's like almost like you can see his like wife in certain scenes. It's kind of like
there's like hidden stuff happening.
It reminds me of Ghostwatch, which is a BBC like found footage movie. It's not even really found footage. It was like, is that Ghostwatch or something else?
Yeah, Ghostwatch. Yeah, it's also really great.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. So if you ever get a chance to see it, but there's scenes where there's like stuff in the background. It's like, is that a person or something standing in the background type of thing? Kind of looks like a ghost. This one does it a lot in this movie, which I think that's one of the main draws of this movie.
It's like one of those things we want Nukies or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Nukies films or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you see it? And it shows like a little ghost like face or something in the background or whatever.
Right.
Or like something like you'll be walking by a mirror and it'll be like a split second. You'll see like the figure of like his wife in the mirror or whatever.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, this is really good. It is on Shudder, so if you ever get a chance to see it, like if you have Shudder or something, this is one that I would definitely recommend. But like I said, this top three that we have, it's very close, so it's kind of like it's a top three, but
we have all the same.
Yeah, these could be pretty much interchangeable or whatever.
Yeah,
because all three of these movies are really good.
Okay, so then our number two, this one's actually our number two. Mm-hmm. Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
So we just went on this tirade about Late Night with the Devil and Nosferatu, these highbrow horror films.
Yes.
And then Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, we go into hard R.
Hard R, but like MCU wackiness.
Yeah.
It depends on my mood, really, if that's my number one or not.
Yeah.
Because it's like, Nosferatu, Late Night with the Devil are excellent films, but I'm going to be watching Deadpool and Wolverine a lot more often than I'm going to be watching those.
Deadpool and Wolverine is one movie where you can watch. You can probably continuously watch.
Yeah.
Over and be fine with it. Like,
I actually saw it. I think
get tired of it at all.
I think I saw it 4 times.
Yeah.
In the theater. Once in IMAX in Poland when I got there.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, it's just highly entertaining film. Really funny. Yeah. Has a lot of great callbacks and cameos that make sense.
Yes.
It is a cameo fest, but unlike some of the MCU ones, these ones are like actually decent.
Yeah, because this is like a callback to the Fox era of X-Men.
Right.
It's literally a callback to that movie. Or like that era, I guess you can say.
Right.
Because you have like Gambit, which is that was a movie that Fox was going to make.
I love Gambit
with Channing Tatum, I believe.
Yeah, Channing Tatum. Yeah.
It has Elektra in it, which that was a callback to the Daredevil
and the Elektra movie.
Yeah, Elektra movie. Those are both Fox movies, I believe.
Yeah.
Because we know Disney bought Fox out, so they have all their properties now.
Right.
And then Blade, and that was a very surprising one, actually. Wesley Snipes' is Blade, which
there's only one Blade. They're only ever going to be
and then
one Blade.
After that, Blade got canceled or whatever the other Blades are.
Which I think is true because the other Blades is in limbo.
It's like, how hard can you do a vampire hunter movie?
I don't know.
It's very difficult for
Must
Disney.
be difficult to do because it's a disaster in the production.
Yeah.
So that team. Also, Chris Evans as Human Torch.
I forgot that he was Human Torch for Fantastic Four.
Right. I think everybody forgot that.
Yeah, that was a Fox property. Actually, it's a big callback to Fox.
Yeah. So, it was really good. I love the Deadpool movies. I think Ryan Reynolds is hilarious.
Yeah.
So, if you're not into if you think Ryan Reynolds is annoying, or you just don't like his comedy, then this isn't going to change your mind.
this probably you might not like this movie if that were the
You
case.
you might be kind of like
yeah.
it's sort of like along the lines of Jim Carrey type situation.
Yeah.
Like Jim Carrey, I respect the man, but like for whatever reason his humor doesn't necessarily click with me as well as like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
It's a very different type of humor. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is just dry sarcasm, relentless sarcasm.
Yeah. Like Jim Carrey is like that wacky, like almost like a cartoon character.
Yeah, which I don't mind. I just think
Yeah.
I just felt Sonic was overboard with it.
Yeah.
But this, on the other hand, this gives us not 2 Ryan Reynolds, but like 100.
Yeah,
Ryan
there's
Reynolds.
a lot of Ryan Reynolds in here. He even has his family in there too. It's like,
Yeah, they
I think
ended
his
up.
kids are in there.
His kids are in there. Blake was in there
Yeah.
as Lady Deadpool or whatever. Matthew McConaughey randomly is in there as the cowboy Deadpool.
Yes.
There was a whole bunch of people in there.
yeah.
There's Welsh Pool.
Which
There's a Scottish Deadpool.
was that like the actual Deadpool or was that a different one?
I think Welsh Pool. I think they made up because it's the play on the fact that he owns that football team in Wales, Wrexham or whatever. The guy in the costume was the co-owner of the team.
Oh, there you go.
So there's all these in-jokes about Ryan Reynolds personally.
They needed to have Mint Mobile in there.
They should have.
They should have put Mint Mobile.
They should have had something. They probably will if they do another one.
Yeah.
They had Nice Pool
Yes.
with Dog Pool.
I think Nice Pool was just like a regular guy.
Nice Pool was basically his evil. I guess Ryan Reynolds had this joke about an evil twin of his or something.
And that's Nice Pool.
And in the credits, they have his evil twin's character credited as Nice Pool,
Oh, there you go.
who's like a stereotypical Canadian.
Yeah.
Which there was that whole big debate since then. Was that a guy that got into all kinds of trouble with Blake Lively or whatever as like a sexual harassment thing or something? He came out, I guess, like yesterday or 2 days ago and claimed that Nice Pool is obviously a ripoff of him. And it's like, Nice Pool is just a Canadian stereotype.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like the Canadian, the happy Canadian or whatever.
Yeah, he's the happy Canadian that just says sorry all the time.
Yeah.
And like that's like the stereotypical Canadian. And it's also a character Ryan Reynolds has been messing around with for decades.
Yeah.
So that all was in there. And then Hugh Jackman was fantastic.
Yeah,
in this
and that's
film.
that's one big draw is they have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again.
Yeah.
And now he's like huge jacked man.
Huge jacked man
He's like
is back again.
he is jacked in this movie. Like he is like
He's always jacked. But yeah, this movie is crazy. And then he's fantastic.
yeah, he's really good.
In this film. We're talking about this movie just being a wacky, fun, comedy action film.
Yeah.
But there's that scene in the middle. There's 2 scenes in particular that actually made me like. One scene makes me tear up, and it's like his talking about his past and all that stuff. How he's like failed everybody and like all that kind of stuff. But there's one scene. There's like an acting scene that's fantastic when he's in that car with Ryan Reynolds, basically telling him how much of a colossal fuck up he is. And the way he chews out Deadpool to the point that Deadpool is speechless.
Yeah.
That scene is so well acted.
Yeah.
It's like it's probably the best scene in the movie, to be honest. Like it's just really well done. So there's some surprising good moments in the movie.
And they don't destroy the old past canon with Logan, which I think they went back and said they wanted to make sure they didn't want to like screw up Logan.
They make fun of screwing it up, but they don't.
Yeah.
Like they actually do this like roundabout way, but they finally get to a loving tribute.
Yeah.
Even though it's maybe not so obvious at the start when he's literally desecrating his grave.
Yeah, like playing with his bones and stuff.
They do that crazy fight scene at the beginning with the NSYNC song.
Yeah, the NSYNC dance at the beginning.
Yeah. I don't know. From beginning to end, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of rewatchability. My favorite scene of the year, as much as I want to talk about Nosferatu or whatever, my favorite scene of the year is definitely that fight scene where it's Wolverine in his Wolverine costume that we've all been waiting for 20-some years.
Yes.
And Deadpool just going wild on 100 Deadpools with Madonna music playing in the background. Yeah. Now that is cinema.
Yeah, there you go. Peak cinema.
That is peak cinema. So, yeah, I would highly recommend Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, that is really good. So like I said, that was a pretty good movie. Hopefully, I don't know if they're gonna. Are they planning on making a new one? I don't even know.
I don't know if they are or not. I kind of hope they do, just because that was so well done.
Yeah, I don't know if Hugh Jackman wants to make another one.
He's gonna be doing this till he's 90.
Yeah, I guess he even makes a joke about that. So you're gonna keep doing this till you're 90.
Now that you signed your life away, you're not getting away again.
The Disney.
Yeah, you're never gonna get away from this. We also got the Cavalrine.
Yes.
As well, who also looked fantastic.
Oh yeah, we did have Cavill.
If we were gonna have a new Wolverine, I think that's the one.
Yeah, they want to have Cavill as Wolverine, which looks perfect as Wolverine.
Yeah. So I don't know. I loved it. I think it's just a really fun, well-made Marvel movie, and it's been far too long.
Yeah.
Since we've had a really good Marvel movie.
Marvel has been kind of lost its way.
They even make it fun of that in the movie, because when they introduce Logan to the MCU, he's like, you're kind of coming in at a down point.
Yeah, down point.
It's kind of at a low point right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was really good, and surprising in some ways, not surprising in others. I mean, once I heard this was happening, I couldn't see how it would be bad.
Yeah, especially with Ryan Reynolds and stuff writing the story, or like writing the script and stuff like that.
Yeah, getting involved in the production and everything. But you always wonder, because Disney Marvel is hit and miss.
Yeah.
And we'll see what goes on with the year ahead. I'm at least hopeful for all these Marvel movies that are coming out this year.
Yeah, because I think Brave New World is the next one.
That's the next one. That's like in February, I think. Yeah. And then the one I'm actually weirdly looking forward to, I might be the only person on the planet who is Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
But that's because I really like David Harbour. So I think that's Red Guardian or whatever is tying that film together for me.
Which I didn't even see whatever the movie actually came from is like
Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Yeah, it was okay, but he was easily the best part of that.
Yeah.
He was funny in Black Widow, so I'm hoping that's decent at least. Mm-hmm. I think that's it for this year. Is there any other Marvel stuff coming out? We're through the horror that is the Sonyverse.
Yeah, the Sonyverse is over with, so we don't have to worry about any.
We survived.
That was I should have put top 1 and 2, Madam Web,
and Kraven the Hunter. See, now that we didn't even talk about that for Nosferatu, but it's kind of fantastic that Aaron Taylor Johnson was in the worst film of the year. Yeah. 2 weeks later, he's in the best film.
Yeah. He does in everything.
Although he's really not that good in Nosferatu, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just like a normal guy.
He just walks around saying, "Oh, capital."
Yeah,
all the time.
Pretty much.
He says capital like 25 times.
He's like the stereotypical British man.
Yeah, British German man.
Yeah, British German man.
Same thing. Yeah. Especially in Victorian era, when Queen Victoria was more German than she was British.
And he's like, capital is like, I cannot do this.
Oh, capital idea, sir.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I guess last thing on thing is number one movie of the year for me. My absolute number one movie, no surprise to anyone who watches this channel. Chris Stuckman's Shelby Oaks.
Yes, it cannot be beat.
Absolutely phenomenal film. It's got the best writing, the best cast. The plot twist will blow your mind.
It's done with everything.
Those hellhounds.
Yeah.
Those will leave you speechless.
Yes.
So yeah, that's just a joke for the people that were saying we were the biggest Chris Stuckman shills.
Yes.
For actually even attempting to say that we liked any bit of Shelby Oaks.
Yes.
And we did see that movie this year, and yeah, it was okay. I mean,
yeah,
I still stand by the fact that I say it was a decent first attempt from a filmmaker who, to my knowledge, has never even made a official short film prior to that.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably messed around making films at home or something, but never got, like, a short film released out there.
Yeah.
And I think Shelby Oaks was supposed to be a short film, but then it turned into something more.
Because they had Mike Flanagan on.
Yeah, like, it kept evolving, and it may still evolve, because in case you were wondering, we were joking about the Hellhounds are literally, like, just German Shepherds.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, no budget at all. And, yeah, my number one film of the year was Nosferatu. It's not Shelby Oaks.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Shelby Oaks didn't even make my top 15,
No.
but I think it was a competently made first time film.
It's good
but-
for, like, a beginning director. I'm not gonna, like,
Yeah, it's not the best film. Like
drop the hammer on,
Yeah,
like, a
no.
beginning director here.
It's
but-
a fine film for like a first time
Yeah.
guy who does YouTube reviews. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was just like an inside joke because we got a few people, not a lot of people.
Yeah.
We had actually majority of likes on that video, but we had a couple people that were like, "I can't trust you because you're Chris Stuckman Shills.
You're Stuckman Shills.
You don't even subscribe
Yeah, I
to
don't
the
even
dude.
subscribe to this.
Like, I don't think you've seen a review of his in like 10 years.
Yeah, it's like I saw him maybe in high school, or not in
Yeah.
high school, but in college. That
College,
was,
yeah.
like, it.
And I recently subscribed to the dude. Like, I've watched his videos off and on, and I subscribed to him like the week before we went to that
Yeah.
festival because I'm like, I might as well subscribe to this guy. I'm gonna go see his movie.
It's like I
So-
watched him when he still made critical reviews.
When he actually
So,
made negative reviews.
Yeah, when he made negative reviews. That's when I watched him.
Yeah. Yeah, us. We're just like Chris Stuckman. We never make a negative review.
Yes.
Go back and watch our 2-hour-long rant about Craven the Hunter.
Yeah. Where it's like horrible. And Madam Web.
And Madam Web. And a bunch of other movies that came out last year. Alright, so... Yeah, basically a rule of thumb is if our review's like an hour long, we probably hate it.
Yeah.
This is a 2-hour-long video, but this
Yeah,
is like
but it's
a
like a
year
top
in
10.
review type
Yeah.
thing, so... Alright, so that's just a little inside joke at the end. My number one, like I said, was Nosferatu.
Yeah, mine was Late Night with the Devil.
Right, so we just kind of flipped our 3 in 1.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's everything for 2024 in review. So going forward, I hope to do some great things on this channel going forward. I haven't done much of anything since I got back from Poland, but I was just getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
A full-time job again, and
Let's
this.
get back into life, I guess.
Life, but I feel like I'm settling into life post-Poland better, so...
Yes.
Yeah, my trip to Poland was like a complete waste of time, and probably set us back a few months on the channel. But I'm going forward. I want to do a lot of cool things. I want to revamp the videos, try to make these things better quality, almost like a real YouTube channel. And and I hope to go back to doing Twitch again soon.
Yeah,
so.
we'll probably have to do Twitch again. Probably play the horror games again because we got some more, and it's easier to get some games that we were wanting to play
Right.
on like more modern consoles. You're
Dino
not, like-
Crisis for one.
Yeah, Dino Crisis, Siren was another one. So,
Mhm.
and then we'll probably finish Silent Hill.
Yeah, we got to dive into Silent Hill 2 Remake, which didn't exist when we
Yeah,
started.
and probably Silent Hill 1, which
Yeah.
or Silent Hill 2. I mean the PlayStation
Right.
2 version.
Yeah, so we'll probably get into doing that. And then I, hopefully, will start doing more videos on my own as well. So I'll probably be streaming on my own, as well as Sunday nights we'll be streaming together.
Yes.
And I want to start doing lore videos. I want to finish up the Gamera Code Thursis manga crap and start working on some more content for that sort of stuff. And probably start covering stuff about kaiju films and horror movies and all that kind of stuff again. So if any of that stuff sounds interesting, check us out.
Yes.
So if you liked the video, as always, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this in the future, and you too can feel the strength welling within. See ya.
See ya.